If you have ever walked through the older districts of London, Paris, or New York, you have likely felt it, a strange, almost tangible weight of history emanating from the weathered brick and cast iron. We are taught to trust the plaques on the facades and the paragraphs in our textbooks, which dutifully inform us this building was commissioned in 1860, this subway line opened in 1863, and this sewer network is a triumph of Victorian engineering. We accept these dates as immutable facts, yet if we pause for a moment and look closer at the world around us, the chorus of official history begins to reveal frightening dissonances. We see photographs from the mid-19th century showing primitive, horse-drawn carriages struggling through muddy, unpaved streets, a world that seems barely capable of managing its own filth. And yet, directly beneath this chaotic, primitive surface, we find thousands of miles of perfectly aligned brick tunnels, whose precision, mathematical geometry, and sheer scale seem unattainable for a people whose primary tools were the wooden shovel, the horse-drawn cart, and the flickering light of the oil lamp. We are looking at a world of two halves, a sophisticated, subterranean masterpiece of engineering, and a surface population that appears to have simply stumbled upon it, struggling to understand the inheritance they were left with.
Official history claims the late 19th century was an era of unprecedented technological leaps, and at the center of this narrative stands Joseph Bazalgette's project in London. We are told that in just a few years, he reshaped the capital's depths, laying a complex network of drains consisting of over 300 million bricks. It is a logical, even inspiring explanation, until one begins to calculate the sheer physical logistics of such a feat in the year 1860. In an era where the only heavy transport was the horse, the process of transporting, unloading, and manually laying 300 million bricks should have paralyzed the life of the city for decades. Consider the mountains of soil that would have been excavated. In a city as densely packed as London, where did these millions of tons of earth vanish to? Why, in the vast archives of Victorian photography, do we rarely see the construction site of the century? Instead, the few images that exist show neat, almost surgical incisions in the soil, revealing pre-existing, fully formed vaults that the workers seem to be merely clearing of silt and grime. We are shown men in flat caps standing in tunnels that look like cathedrals, yet we never see the kilns capable of firing those millions of bricks at such a rate, nor do we see the specialized machinery required to maintain such perfect curvature underground. It feels as if the Victorian era was not one of creation, but of massive, desperate restoration, a frantic effort to reactivate a lost circulatory system before the modern world choked on its own growth.
This pattern of finding rather than building repeats with uncanny regularity across the globe, most notably beneath the streets of Paris. We are told the Paris catacombs are merely old quarries where limestone was extracted for the city above, but the architecture of these voids tells a different story. In the deepest, restricted sectors of the underground, one finds perfect arches, reinforced buttresses, and sophisticated masonry that resembles temple complexes rather than the jagged, utilitarian walls of a mine. If these were simply quarries, why was such aesthetic care given to spaces that were never meant to be seen? Why are there so many accounts of these tunnels being discovered or remapped in the late 18th century, rather than being documented during their supposed construction? Simultaneously, we see the physical evidence of a global anomaly in the form of buried windows. In almost every major city from Moscow to Chicago, the first floors of 19th century buildings sit half submerged in the earth, their ornate stone carvings and grand entrances now serving as basement windows at pavement level. The official explanation is street leveling to combat mud, but this narrative fails to explain why architects would spend fortunes decorating a foundation that was destined to be buried in dirt. It suggests that the ground level of our planet was once much lower, and that a sudden, massive influx of soil, a global mud flood, settled across the world just before the dawn of our modern photography, leaving the new inhabitants to simply dig out the doors of the grand structures they found.
In the mid-19th century, a strange phenomenon occurred. From Tashkent to San Francisco and from Melbourne to St. Petersburg, grand neoclassical buildings with massive domes, Roman columns, and intricate stonework appeared in record time. We are told these were built by settlers who had just arrived in wild, untamed lands, yet the photographs of these newly built structures reveal a chilling silence. We see these grand palaces surrounded by primitive wooden scaffolding that looks entirely inadequate for the task of lifting multi-ton granite blocks. We see streets that are completely empty of people, with no construction debris, no piles of lumber, and no administrative records of the thousands of specialized artisans required for such detail. The buildings look as if they have always been there, weathered, silent, and ancient, and humanity is merely moving in, cleaning the dust from the glass and hanging their flags. Even the London Underground, with its perfectly circular tunnels, begins to look less like a Victorian invention and more like the reactivation of a prehistoric transport artery. We are told these tunnels were cut and cover, yet the disruption to the surface world would have been apocalyptic. Perhaps they didn't dig the tunnels at all. Perhaps they simply found them, drained the water, and installed the tracks, claiming the glory of an architect they had already forgotten.
We live on the surface of a world that was far more complex, far more technological, and infinitely more majestic than we are allowed to believe. Our cities are not the product of a linear progression from primitive to advanced. They are multi-layered, salvaged structures where modernity is just a thin film of asphalt and neon draped over something colossal and ancient. We walk on the same stones as those who came before us, using their tunnels and living in their halls, without ever knowing who they were or why they left. We are a species with amnesia, living in ghost cities that were built long before we even possessed the language to describe them. We take credit for the arches and the domes, but deep down, in the quiet hours of the night, when the city hums with a frequency we cannot explain, we feel the truth. We are not the masters of this world. We are merely its latest tenants. The true history of our origins remains buried just beneath the sidewalk, in the cold, damp darkness where the brick meets the bedrock. A place we are taught to ignore, because to acknowledge it would be to realize that we are standing on the ruins of a giant whose name we can no longer speak. If the foundations of our reality are an inheritance we didn't earn, then the question is not how we built these cities, but what happened to the people who were capable of such things, and if they ever truly left.